If your Lexus has a grumbling, crumbling sound in the speakers, it's probably because it looks like this. Yeah, you can stick your fingers all through that edge because the Lexus is not known for its plastics and rubbers. So we're going to show you real quick how fast and easy it is to yank these speakers out. We are replacing speakers today with an Infinity Kappa 693M. It's a pretty heavy duty speaker. And in order to install that, we're going to be using a Metra 828146. So all the descriptions and links to all of these are going to be below. So just search it and you can find direct links to it. Now you don't have to go with this expensive 6x9. These were about $120 for a refurbished set. They run around about $180. But I wanted it to sound good. Can you blame me for that? You can get a set of polypropylene ones for starting about $40 or up for a pretty decent pair for stuff. You don't want to get anything paper, and pretty much nowadays there's not really many out there that are making paper. But this is what you're going with. There's not a lot that you need to do this job. Now this is a pair of needle nose essentially that has wire strippers on them, but I can still crimp different connecting caps with these. So really all you need is a screwdriver and a set of wire cutters, crimpers, etc. There's different types and varieties of these that you could use for this, but these are your basic tools. Now if you have a drill, it might speed things up. And if you're like me and you have solder and tape and some heat shrink, then that also will make things a little bit better, more durable, because you have electronics that are bouncing around in your car. You don't want any loose connections and have to go rip your door panel off again. The other thing is you can pick up for 12 bucks. I'll have the link for this below as well. All kinds of different connecting caps if you'd rather crimp it and go that way and tape it up. I kind of shy away from those, but you have that route as well. First thing we got to do is remove this door panel, and all it is one screw behind here, one screw behind here, and popping off a few clips, and we're all ready to go. Now this has been replaced. If you have a cap that has a center punch, you actually poke in that center hole and pull this out. This one has been replaced with a different type of connector, so I'm going to try to pull this out without ripping it. Now I have a little hook tool. You can get these at Home Depot and different places. I'll put a link for a cheap set for them. You really don't need them. I can get my fingers in here and yank that off. It's just two little clips, but it does help to have some of these things. In order to get this off, you're going to come down here, and I can brace this door with my leg, and I'm just going to pull out that way. And once I pull out, I'm going to lift it up. And I'm going to lift it up off that track. And now my door is hanging by the connections behind here. So once again, I can use my fingers and pop this out of here. But if you can't get that out with your hands, a little hook tool helps. It's just clipped in there. See how it kind of helps get in there a little bit. On the back side here, there's a little clip. I can take and push that out of there, or I can get my thumb in there, wiggle it back and forth, and that comes disconnected. My back side here, I have a little clip for my light that I just get in there with my thumb and pull out. And then on this here, these are my door panel locks. The green one, you just force it out that way, and see that little wire? That's how you would reinstall that when you're done. Put it back in. That's how easy it pops off, right? So don't be afraid of it. I took it off, put it on in a matter of seconds. Can't really mess this up. This green one here as well. See how it sits in there? That one's reinstalled. So I just uninstall it, just like that. You'll see when you get in there. It's not too big of a deal. Now this whole panel, oops, before I say that, one more little black clip on the driver's side down here. Gotta get my thumb in there, wiggle off. There's a little clamp on there. Now I can take and set my door panel off to the side. You can remove your light on the door panel, but there's no real reason to unplug that. I can pry this out with my hands. It's kind of stuck in there. I can use a flathead screwdriver. My hook tool, just been in there since 2007. And last but not least, I've got a little clamp right here. Wiggle that out. The thing we have to be familiar with is this black and red. We don't know what polarity that is. That means polarity means if the speaker's pushing out or it's pushing in. And if we reverse that polarity, it's going to sound bad. So we're going to have to test that, figure out which one's which. After I test this and tell you, you're not going to have to test this on your own. Okay? So after I show you that, I'll tell you which one's positive, which one's negative, and then you'll be able to easily hook this up on your vehicle. Now, we are going to have to cut this wire because the speakers that we have are going to come in. Typically, you don't want to cut these clips. A lot of Metra sells a clip adapter that goes on here. I could not find any on the internet for this car, so that's fine. We'll add our own, but doing that will save you time, money, and worry about these vibrating loose. So unfortunately, I'm going to cut this. If this was a newer car, I wouldn't cut it. I would splice in up here and maintain this so I could put these back. But even if I traded this turd in, I'm not going to send that with the car. I mean, I'm not going to waste my time to go yanking these and putting these back in there. So we are going to throw this in the trash and cut the clip off on this one. This is why your stereo is sounding so bad, right? So if you're hearing a bunch of garbage, that's why. I can strip my wire back some because I'm exposing that bare copper, and then I'm twisting it around so it'll be easy to extend this and make it longer to reach the bottom of my speaker. But first I want to keep this little edge here because I've got to figure out what this red and what this black is. So I'll reinsert that clip into my speaker so I know which side is black and red. And I'm going to come to the back side here. I'm going to send power with a little battery. It could be a AA battery to see which direction the speaker is firing. So what you can see here is I have a positive going to the black side of my battery, right? And I have my negative coming here, and this speaker should come out towards me. Whoops. So what you're seeing is speaker's coming out. Now if I flipped those and I had it going this way, the speaker's going in, meaning my black is my positive. I want to make sure that my batteries don't touch and weld together, and the best way to do that is I mark a plus side on this side, and I go, all right, now I remember my black is positive. And on my new speaker, all your new speakers are going to have a positive and negative written right on there. It's not written anywhere on this here, so my new speaker wire is going to come in a positive, the other one's going to go to negative. Now, I can actually put that in the vehicle, and as it's playing, I can switch my positive and negatives around, and if my polarity is correct, it's going to sound great. I reverse them, it's going to get quiet and sound like garbage. So that's one way too. If it sounds just off, you might have one of those flipped. You may have made a mistake, so just go back and flip them. You can't mess anything up with that. Also, if I'm looking at this tweeter, I want the direction going up towards the occupants. I don't want it going down towards the floorboard. So make sure I'm facing it the right way. That's why we had to extend the wires up. I redid the other side and they're too short. So we're going to get over here, extend the wires. We're going to use a soldering gun and some heat shrink and extend them on this side and get this party started. Now, speaker wire doesn't have to be anything fancy. It can be this lamp wire laying around. That orange wire is just using to test it. I happen to have some black and red wire, which is a little too thick for this, but I'll put it on here for demonstration purposes. You can usually put it in a drill and twist it up so it stays nice and tight, very similar to this. Like I said, this is a little overkill for what I'm using here, but speaker wire doesn't have to be anything fancy. So if I'm going to install any of these heat shrink, I'm going to want to put that on now so that it is not hard to feed over it. The way that I want to combine these, I'll take these two here like that, like I'm crossing them, and then twist one this way, twist one that way, and I'm going to solder mine. You could always use one of these crimp caps where you stick one in on this side, stick one in on that side, and crimp it in the middle with your pliers, and this is heat shrink, so that actually works out pretty good. When you're soldering, you want to put the wire, you want to put the solder on the wire, heat up the wire so hot that it melts into the wire, not on the edge of the iron. Now I'm personally going to throw some electrical tape over the top of these and tie these together because I don't trust heat shrink. I always take and twist these so they go into the hole nice and easy. Now if you have the speaker plate, you can take like a hot knife or a Sawzall and you can cut all of this out and not buy the metric kit. If you want to take your time and do that, you can. I figure a lot of people aren't going to want to do that, including myself, so you can buy the metric kit and it makes that easy. However, the only thing with the metric kit, this is the 828146 link below, it doesn't come with any screws or fasteners, so when I use the bolts that hold my original speaker in, I only have 4 bolts left. So those 4 bolts are going to hold this grate into place, which means I need 4 more that hold my speaker in. Now, Infinity sent us some screws with it with clips, which we'll be able to use and put through this. So we're going to install our speaker first. It has some foam we can add on there to limit some vibration. And we will put this speaker on this side and then install the speaker in this way. Before you go attaching this cradle to your speaker, you'll need to figure out which direction this sits in there, and that is going to be that direction. Up here I have a hole where I can feed my speaker wires through, so that's going to be the up on this Metra kit. So if that's up, then I'm going to want to make sure I mount my speaker with that logo and everything facing and going in that direction. One thing about this Metra kit doesn't really line up with the screws. This one and this one line up, and the other ones do not. It baffles me. I've tried it upside down, backwards. These two do not line up, so I'm going to have to drill a little hole and put them in. One big thing, it's very easy to take your drill and fall off and stab your brand new speaker surround. So be careful with that. If I'm trying to drive this in and it falls off, or I stab it with my screwdriver, just don't do that. So I was able to drill it in, but just be careful because you get awfully close to that surround and it starts tugging on that surround, and it's not good. What I really don't like about these Infinity speakers is they have plastic here, and if you tighten the screw too much, it will mess it up, and if you try to put a washer in there, it'll mess up this edge. So it's very poorly designed, we'll just say that. So this door panel goes back on the same way it came off, starting with our two handle parts here. So as you're putting this back together, make sure you don't poke any new holes in your speaker. We had to put in our outside mirror wire here. We had to put in our memory function for our seats. That slaps in that way. Goes back on that end. This one also slaps in. Comes back that way and goes in. So now I'm just going to feed these through for my door handles and call it a day. If you're like me and your clip broke, you can buy one of these over at Advance Auto. It's just a little plastic clip that goes in there. You can find them in the help section. Get your screws back into place. Yeah, just pretty much pop one of those right back into place, but honestly it's fine for now. If you do break it, you can drive around just fine without it. Come over and plug this back in. This has little clips that sits on in there. Got our screw here, got our screw here. This pops in there and we are ready to rock. That concludes the video for this install. Check out the link below for all the different parts and pieces. You can get whatever speakers that you want. You don't have to go with an Infinity brand that I went with. However, Infinity is pretty awesome. Anyways, the Metra kit's pretty helpful. If you can find the speaker harness adapters, that's always a good thing. I couldn't find them. If you do find them, post them in the comments for others. Other than that, out of 10, I'd probably say if you had no experience, it's probably a 6 maybe. If you have experience, then it's probably like a 3 or a 4. But I think a lot of people are afraid to pull their door panel off. They can get frustrating, so that's why I kind of rated up there, maybe 6 or 7 if you've never done something like this. But it's really not that big of a deal. If you can change a car battery, it's I would say up there with doing that. It's really not that difficult. So anyways, if you have any questions, put them in the description. I'll try to get to them, but I make no promises.